Okay, we're ready. All I have to do is go to full screen. Okay, let me close that up. All right, we're back. All right, let's go ahead and get started here. Thank you for coming. A lot of great stuff to cover, so let's get going. All right, this is support meeting for class 2024. And I want to thank you for coming. You could be doing a lot of other things, but you're here. Also tell your friends about it. As always, a video of this will drop within a day or so. And of course, in the chat, my peeps have put a copy of the presentation. So if you just want to watch the screen and get your presentation separate, you can, okay? So you'll be able to do that. Let me go on. If you have questions, like we usually, we're very informal. You can either raise your hand, I'll see it, or you can put it in the chat, and my people are just watching the chat so close. We can do it either way you're comfortable with. I'm expecting that. What I'm going to cover will take about 48 minutes. So we've programmed in if you have questions. Don't feel bad at all. We always wonder what the questions will be, and you just go ahead and ask them as we go, okay? All right, here's some 24-25 FAFSA issues updates. I had a most interesting webinar with Department of Education, and I'm an official FAFSA preparer, so I was invited as a community preparer. We're a registered site before the pandemic. I guess they remembered us. And I had a very interesting update. You couldn't ask any question. It was a webinar, and they had the question and answer turned off until the very end. Then they only answered questions for a few minutes. But here's kind of the update. Let's get the history and facts straight. August 2023, the feds confirmed a new, easier, and more equitable FAFSA form and process. Whenever I hear those two words together, I've learned to get a little worried because I realize there could be issues because they don't say what it will do better, just easier and more equitable. September 2023, we learned the FAFSA would not open on October 1st, although there were rumors about that back in March because they were having trouble with the software. So they didn't open on October 1st. A lot of you don't know this, but it used to open on October 1st. It's for 18 years it has. And then we were told it will open in December. So everybody thought that meant December 1st. I didn't, because I've learned to read between the lines. I expected December 31st, since no specific date was given. So that caused a lot of confusion. But then January 2nd, 31st came, nothing happened. January 2nd, there was a soft start of the FAFSA, they called it, or whatever soft means. It didn't work anyway until January 7th. Okay? I was spinning my wheels the 2nd to the 7th. I probably should just waited. There were training materials for the first time, but it was not advertised. So there are training materials out there, if you can understand them. There are a couple of videos too, but they're a little tricky to understand though. Mid-January, articles about and NREEP experiences with parents having difficulties with completing the FAFSA process. Last week, I got 13 inquiries or requests for help, and I couldn't help them. I felt so bad because I didn't start it, so I didn't know how they got into the issue. I just recorded it as an issue to see if I can see a trend. There were a couple of people I was able to help. But of course, the ones who I did their FAFSAs obviously benefited from me learning about the issues early. So we filed now about 37, about just under 40 FAFSAs, I believe. Articles about, we got that. So 45 or more, percent or more are having problems with the FAFSA is what I've found out. When I'm not helping, they call and I found out, I feel so bad. Here are the top issues that we're seeing. If you're doing your FAFSA, you want to watch closely. Although I think most people here, I'm doing it for you or did it for you or something like that. You can help your friends out, I guess. Problems starting the FAFSA. That is a big issue. They can't start it. All parents and students need a FOFSA username and password, so they never get out of that step. And it's not clearly stated that you need them. So it has to have a unique email address and unique cell phone number. A lot of parents will use their email address for their student and their email address, and they can't get their usernames and passwords to work. Cell phone number, same way. I've had parents put their cell phone number in for their student when they're setting up their username and password, and now it just won't work. Each person must have unique emails, addresses, and cell phones. Only student section is complete. I see that problem a lot. They've completed the student section and they think they're done. I'll say more about that in a minute. There's no married parent information, or one of the married parents' information is not included. That wasn't totally obvious until around about week 2 for me. In fact, I had to go back and do someone's FOFSA who's here, because I realized that when it's 2 parents, it has to have both parents' information, even though they're going to only use one set of financial data. But all parents need to be invited during the student section completion. Students are not sure who the quote parents are. It's the adult guardians in the home, either one or 2 of them. Yes, the spouse of the remarried persons is a step parent, and they should be considered. I'll say a little more about that in a minute. The other problem I see is when the students have trouble when there's a parent that raised them. They're very confused about what to do, and I feel so bad because those are the ones that were delivered incorrectly many times. And as you'll see in a moment, you can't do much about it right now. Okay? Parents are letting students complete, this is really important. Parents are letting students complete their section of the FOFSA out of their presence. Yeah, go ahead and do it and let me know. Oh, you need to be there when they do it, parents. There's some interesting decisions they have to make about you when they're doing their section. So you'll want to be there when they do it. Issues updates, some more here. The feds announced that the 24-25 FOFSA data, listen to this, will not be sent to colleges until the end of March. Now, I had heard mid-March in the media, but I went to the webinar Friday, they said the end of March. That usually tells me it's going to be later than that. And who's worried about this? The colleges. Because every time they slip the date, every time they make it later, they have less time to reduce the financial aid awards. More on that in a minute. There are a couple of schools. CSU's usually had that financial aid award available. If you admitted early, you had your award in February. So a lot of those schools are terrified. They think they have to staff up because they don't have enough people to get it done that quickly, right? Originally, it was the end of January that this is going to happen. No changes or college additions to the FOFSA can be made until the end of March. So we can't add colleges. We can't do anything. We're kind of in a stall. If you want to change some information, you can't do it until the data's, believe it or not, been sent to the schools. Then you can update it, I guess. I'm not totally sure about what that really means. Maybe they'll make them available right before they send the data. I couldn't really tell from what I heard. CSU and many other colleges have moved their admissions acceptance for you from the national college date, the traditional date of May 1st. It's now June 1st. A lot of schools are changing it. You might want to check with your schools. If you've got it down to 1 or 2 schools your student's going to attend, I would call that school or go to their website, see if they've changed the admission acceptance day. It may not mean anything to you. You're still going to do it by May 1st, but you just want to know that. You may not have the financial aid award May 1st, the final award. What about that? You won't know what you're agreeing to. UC will probably have to follow. As of last night, I didn't see anything about them changing their due date, though, okay? Let's see. What do I want to say here? Wonder why I'm not showing you. Let's see. Take that off there. There we go. Hold on here. Let's see if I could change this. Excellent. Okay. All right. Okay. The FOFSA due date for the Cal Grant was moved to April 2nd. I just heard it might go to May 2nd. So they're all changing their dates. But what I think this is going to really mean to you as parents is when colleges used to have these yield events on the campus right before May 1st to help you to visit the campus, open houses, I guess those are going to have to move too, I would think. One has to wonder whether the registration dates will move, which is why I'm not going to cover enrollment today. I think there's too much uncertainty with how to present that. I think everything's really pushed back by parents not knowing what the schools will cost. Because why would you go to an orientation, or I'm sorry, an open house at a school and pay money to fly there in some cases if you're not sure what you're going to pay for the school? So I don't know what that's going to do. So April 2nd is the new Cal Grant Day, but it could be May now. I'm hearing that, May 2nd. It was already March 2nd, then they moved it to April 2nd. And now I'm thinking it's going to be May 2nd, as was UCCSU financial aid deadline. So the individual schools are moving their deadlines too. They used to have deadlines sometimes before that Cal Grant date. They would do it before that. But now I'm seeing they're moving after that deadline. Private colleges are all handling it a variety of ways. The CS profile schools are not changing their deadlines. So if you have a private school where you submitted a CS profile, many of them are not changing their deadlines. They're just not seeing that they need to. They're going to use.
I can't hear you, sir.
Excuse me? Nobody can hear me? Hello?
Hi, Deacon Wilson. I can hear you.
I can hear you.
Okay. Anybody
Yeah,
else?
I can hear you. I can hear you.
Whoever said that, there's something wrong, maybe on your end. I'm not sure. Okay, so on schools that are still insisting on crazy due dates, I would call them and harass them. So they're saying, a private school saying, we need your FAFSA by March 15th. You should be on the phone to them next week. Please clarify your deadline. And I guarantee you they'll have to change it because they know they're not getting the data until maybe they're just saying that, Sister Moore, to make sure you do it. But as you know, I got your back. Unless it's a new
scholarships.
Scholarships.
Scholarships are still,
yeah, they're way behind. Thank you very much. I understand the question.
That's what I'm saying.
Y'all, scholarship people, they act like they live in another universe. I would call them and harass them. Not harass, y'all know what I mean. Hey, we're having people having trouble delivering the FAFSA. You know, maybe you have an advantage, Sister Moore. Maybe those who've delivered have an advantage. Could that be it? That's a good question.
Well, one of them said by March 15th, and I'm like, well, we don't have it. So what am I supposed to do?
But you did well. Let's make sure we put it in perspective. You have delivered it. If they want proof that you delivered it, you can prove that you delivered it with the notification. Right? Ask
Well, they want what is it called? The score, the SCAR, whatever that thing is called.
Hold on. There's two different issues. If they want that, you should be harassing them. Tell them nobody has those yet.
Right.
Although I got to tell you the truth. I just filed a FAFSA yesterday. It's a little secret between me and you. They had it on. They had it on there.
Because I've been checking his account. We don't have anything.
No, you won't have it. You're not having it until the end of March.
Okay.
I'm telling you, I just filed one last week. And when the students sent me the notification, it was on there. So you need to call up the scholarship advisor or email them. Sometimes they make it so you can't call them and say, just want to let you know, it's common knowledge that 60% of, that the FAFSAs that have been delivered to the government do not give a SAI. There's not a meaningful SAI on there, which is the new name for that index. I would really challenge them, but I'm interested in knowing what they say. I'm very interested in knowing what they say.
Thank you.
I can't wait to find out. If somebody can find that out, I'd like to know. I always want to know stuff. That's how I learn stuff from y'all. You know? Let me turn my do not disturb on, sorry. No colleges have, listen to this, no colleges have said exactly how they will handle FOFSA processing errors. So like there's some people that have made errors, maybe serious errors on their FOFSA. They can't do anything. It's going to go to the college. Colleges, I guess they're going to do the financial aid award. And now you're going to say, wait a minute, I never got this. You know, I think there'll be a lot of appeals this year. But if I filed your FOFSA, that's not going to happen. Because I was extremely careful. It was a very easy form for me. But some people who never did it before may think the form is just as difficult. They'll say, we made it less complicated, but if you never did a FOFSA, maybe anything is complicated. I don't think it was, though. College financial aid officers are very concerned that they will only have 1/3 of the time they normally have for the termination of the financial aid award. So they're like really worried about it. I talked to a couple of them. They're so worried about that. Gee, I'm only going to have a month to do what I did in 3 months. You know, that's why I think they're moving their, you know, admission acceptance dates past the national decision. Well, then I figured out, let's review the FOFSA delivery process first. I know I showed this before on January 6th, but I thought I would go over it again. It will require youth and parent to work very closely together. So I have people in this meeting who haven't seen this. It will require youth and parents to work very closely together. Now, one of the things that I do is I make sure that everybody is looking at their cell phone, everybody's together at one time. I don't think everybody can do that. It's a bit easier for underserved students to complete, but due to the confusing way the form and process handles their parents, step-parents, and live-in partners information, it's more challenging. The form's assumptions about who needs to provide income information is not always fair and equitable. Oh, that's really true. I don't want to get into a lot of detail, but it's not always fair and equitable. Students with 2 married parents and step parents in the household must request that both parents submit their full personal information. The new FOFSA attempts to close loopholes in the process and makes it way more difficult for successful completion. See, they were trying to close loopholes, so therefore they had to put extra hoops to jump through, and those hoops are not always easy. So if you're listening to me and you're in this meeting and you're having these problems with the FOFSA, you know, give me a call. Maybe I can help you. Get a hold of me after the meeting or something. But any ones who I filed, you don't worry about any of this. The current FOFSA is far more user unfriendly than ever, particularly in how it gets parents' information, especially when married father and mother live in the same house. Yeah, there's a lot of work if they're in the same house. I think that would be easy, but it's not. I.e. are married traditionally. One note on that, if you're married in the same house and you file separate returns, it's very tricky doing the FOFSA. It can be done, but it's just tricky. You have to really pay attention when you're doing it. But however, if it's a joint return, those are the easiest FOFSAs to file. The above makes it very difficult for high schools. You know, if there's anyone who's the high schools helping, usually I don't have those in my program. Let me know, but I'm hearing they're having a lot of trouble. I've had 2 high schools here in Paramount and Cerritos reach out to me to maybe come in and do a night and help them, because the counselors are being asked to do this, and it's just not fair to them. Remember, there's that California law, by the way, that says the school has to prevent graduation if a student doesn't file a FOFSA, which is a very bad law. Other observations. When the parents are a married couple, information is needed for both parents to repeat. When the home has a parent and a step parent, the feds expect it to be treated like a married couple, whether the tax filing was joint or not. A parent who claims that they are separated from their spouse but are in the same house are treated like a married couple, and both information must be submitted. And that's kind of my ethical standard here, but I bet there's a way that there's some creative interpretations. Unmarried couples who live together and natural or adopted child is in the home, there you go. They're to be treated like married couples, and both need to provide information. So this is the one where that's what they want. That's all I have to say. All right, here's the submission process. I run through it real fast because I did cover it before. Those of you seeing this on YouTube, you'll be able to play it back and forth anyway. So first you log in, the student logs in, and a secure code is sent by a text. And you got to get that in there in order to go in. And you go not into the FAFSA, complete FAFSA, but just a section of the FAFSA known as the student section. It's really the student section that you go into. And the FAFSA is just submitted. No problem, easy peasy. But then it puts FAFSA processed. And you think, maybe I'm finished. And a lot of people walk away and think they're finished. But they're not. Let me show you. Well, there was a matter of whether you invited your parent. Now, early on in the process, it was possible to skip this step if you click the wrong things in the FAFSA. I hear they're closing that loophole, but there's a possibility you never saw this step, which is the parents are invited to complete their FAFSA section via email. Remember, if you miss this section, it'll say the FAFSA is processed but not completed, because process and completion are different. Because they wanted to give schools the option of taking that as the FAFSA delivery date for financial aid purposes. But there's more to it. There's the parent sections that need to be done for final submission. And the financial information that is not on the return is what you have to enter. So if you had a 2022 tax return and the system couldn't retrieve the data, it's going to ask a lot more questions about the parent's income. But if you did a tax return for 2022, it'll be simple. You'll be able to go through pretty easy. By the way, the student section, the only thing that's really took a long time is if there are a lot of schools. I mean, I had one the other day was 20 schools. So that obviously took me, a while to input all those. So the people had to wait while I was doing those. But if it's a reasonable number of schools, it doesn't take that long, actually. Well, then there's the question, who is the parent? That's really a really big thing. If you're married, yes, then both parents' information is provided. If it's no, the parents live together. Yes? If yes, it becomes like married, right? If no, the parent, your mother or father lives with the student, mother or father lives with the student, and they get the parent information. But watch this. Is the parent remarried? If they're remarried, then the step-parent information is provided. Okay, so they're trying to get both adults, guardians information. That's what they're trying to get in this process. All right, I'm going to cover what will I pay for college, because I think this year it's important that I cover it. In previous years, it was, I covered it, but it wasn't that important. They're getting a financial aid award anyway. And this meeting, I would normally cover how to read the financial aid award. Now, I eventually will cover that when they have financial aid awards. How's that? This year, we don't have financial aid awards this early. So I guess I should cover what I expect you'll pay for college. Because get this, you can know what you're going to, approximately what you will pay for college. And it's insane. I've gotten to the point where I know the school, I can kind of help you with that. If I know your income and a few other things. All right. Here's some EEP cost estimate definition, ground rules, and assumptions first. First, we assume family income is on the 2022 1040 federal tax return. Should have put federal tax return, line 11. That's the number that's used for the determine. When I say income, family income, I mean the adjusted gross. I should have labeled that adjusted gross because line 11 is the adjusted gross income. So that comes after any business losses, by the way, in case you're wondering, on the tax return. It's primarily, for most people, it's the payroll income, minus a few adjustments maybe, is the adjusted gross. Not the taxable income, the adjusted gross. So it's before you do any itemized deductions. We've got to kind of know what a parent is. It's all adult guardians in the home of the student. Family numbers, how many number in the family? Well, I'm assuming 4 or less family members in my assumptions for what you're going to pay for college. When I say direct cost, I mean the tuition plus the room and board. That's traditionally what's on the bill, right? Not things like books and things like that. They're not traditionally on the bill. They're just not there. But tuition and room and board, plus room and board, is considered direct costs. Sometimes there's some mandatory fees or whatever, but I call that all tuition. I know all the CSUs have a campus unique fee. I call that all that tuition. The GPA, I assume, is 3.4 to 3.7. It's important because the major merit awards are well above 3.7. They're 3.9, they're 4.0 unweighted, sometimes 3.8 unweighted. That's where the big merit awards are. So I didn't want to include those here. Obviously, we have super high grades. For some schools, that's a benefit to getting a lot of financial aid. Other schools don't seem to care as much. Private colleges, here's what I expect. What will you pay for college? Under 40,000, there's a wide range of costs. This wide range of costs is very interesting. It's 15,000 to 65,000. So when you have the lower the income, the wider the ranges, and you'd think it would be different. You'd think it'd be always low. But there are a lot of schools that don't do anything about reduced income. Private HBCUs, for example, you know, if you make $40,000, you could owe $15,000 to $20,000 for college per year. So it's because they don't do need-based university grants, whereas PWIs, predominantly white institutions, constantly do that. Well, there's some of them that don't too, but don't get me wrong. $40,001 to $59,999, I put it that way. You're going to pay $18,000 to $65,000 for private college. Remember, this is private colleges and out-of-state public universities. Remember, out-of-state is arbitrary, right? I have two of you here from other states. Out-of-state could be a California school for you guys, right? Out-of-state public university. Like our CSUs, I think, are about 50, and our UCs are 60, 65,000. $60,000 to $80,000, you're going to be $25,000 to $76,000, and $80,000 plus $30,000 to $82,000. The ranges are very wide. You might say, I need to get that financial aid order. Well, you should pay attention to the minimums, right? That's what you minimally can be expected to pay. And you start planning that way if I were you. I would start planning that way if you know your student's going to go to a private school. And you need to have a serious conversation if it's much above that minimum. Maybe that helps you with the conversations that need to happen. See no questions. All right, California State University, under 40,000, $2,000 to $4,000 total cost per year. This is why I say if you go back, look under 40,000 for private school, under 40,000. So if you're making under $40,000 or even under 60, I feel you have to have a very good reason that you're telling yourself if you're going to pay these kind of differences in cost. Right? You really want to have a good understanding for why you're doing that. Because after all, you guys, you're entitled to a great retirement, right? Be able to have a peaceful retirement. Working so hard. 60,000, 80,000, 8,000 to 22,000 for CSU. Depends on where you are in that 60 to 80, right? 80,000 and above, you're going to pay the full ride pretty much for CSU. Room and board. Remember, these are direct costs, okay? 22,000 to 30. This covers everything, room and board and everything, you know. 22,000 to $31,000 for CSU, okay? UC costs a little bit more. Yeah, I incorporated that good. They raised their need-based reports. Under 40,000, it's going to be 0 to 4,000. So you pay 0 if you're under 40. It's possible to pay 0 if you're like 20 to 30,000. 40,001 to 59,900, 4,500 to 6,000. And 60,000, 80,000, you see it 7,000, 12,000. 80,000 plus is 14,000 to 23,000. Actually, that's just probably wrong. It's probably more like 26,000 for UC. That's a typo. To get that correct. Okay. All right. Again, any questions? Let me know. Here's the 5 top, did I do 5? It may be less than 5, I don't know. 5 top college application mistakes you might be in the middle of making. College list is too many colleges that will be high cost, given the GPA. It's more of an issue this year than any other year. A lot of reasons for that. Failure to watch early your emails from CSU and UC, and failure to set up your portals. And then when you pivot to try to go to a CSU, you found out you missed sending them information, or they may have dropped you from the acceptance list. So I hope you're watching those emails, students that are hearing here. You got to keep up with that. Remember, if you applied to a lot of schools that you wanted to look at, now you got to be watching your email, setting up portals. That's true for other schools, not just CSU. Strange things about CSU follow-up. Yeah, I covered that. Their overall admission process is very different. The portals makes it very, there's some schools that don't send you any letters. Everything's done online. I think San Diego State's that way. The FOPs on the CSS profile are potentially delayed. We talked about that. So if you didn't file your income taxes, right, you got an extra grace period to get the 2022 tax return filed. Hurry your return, but also you can file your FOPSA based on estimates. You still can do that. Let's see, late college list additions. And your colleges are just like all your other colleges. So don't add it. You're going to add some colleges now, and you can. A lot of them still taking applications. For example, there's about, I think it's about 9 or 10 CSUs still taking applications. So if you don't have any CSUs on your list, that'd be a good addition to make for cost reasons. But if you have all of a certain kind of school, say you have all Black colleges, no sense adding more Black colleges. And I know a lot of you went to that Black Expo and added colleges there, but these are probably colleges you can't visit if you're doing it that late. And I hope you don't attend a school you don't visit. That's really important to not do that if you can avoid it. Maybe you will visit, who knows? All right, why do we have federal loans for college? It's actually an interesting question. Well, here's why you have them. Need-based federal and state grants plus merit scholarships are considerably less than the direct cost for the college. So here's your tuition fees, room and board. And there's your grants. So clearly you can see it's not enough. So you got this piece right here, you got to pay. And that piece is too much for you to pay for in cash. So we end up with cash plus loans, with most of it being loans. That's why you have loans, because the grants seldom cover all the costs. When people tell you they have a free ride, often there's a form of this situation right here. Colleges just aren't, covering it all with free money anymore, unless your income is very low and it's a CSU or UC. Okay. Here's a loan example with HBCU. Assuming a GPAs of up to 3.5, you can make it 7. Income more greater than 50,000. There's your tuition, room, and board. It's all going to be loans. I hate to say that, but it's going to all be loans. Okay, and that's why if you don't get any merit awards, it's all loans for HBCU. You can get in and not have any merit awards. If you have a small merit award, sure, it will reduce the loans, but your primary repayment plan for private HBCU is loans. And most of it for the traditionally Black colleges too. There are some that are great buys, but usually they aren't the schools that I see. If you have schools like, Norfolk State, Virginia State, and others, I just say that, you might see that it's this dash box is not that bad. So this could be 35,000, 55,000 a year. Here's another loan example. When you have income less than 40, now you're going to get Pell Grant, right? Okay. So then you have that part's loans. And this piece down here is your Pell Grant. And that's proportional the way I drew that orange box. Still going to have loans. Or unless you save money for college, you might, get out of it that way. Who knows? or you have, relatives that can help. That happens a lot with HBCU. Here's a loan example with CSU. Again, we're talking about how to pay for college. Example 3 is CSU. There's the tuition enrollment board. Income greater than $60,000. It's for income greater than $60,000. It's going to be 19 to 24. That's why it's a little higher than 23. 19 to 24,000 a year. It's going to be pretty much loans. No, pretty much. It's going to be loans. Okay. Again, trying to give you a sense of what's going to happen that you know is going to happen, so you get an idea of where you fit even without the financial aid award. Because you can get an idea of what you're going to have to pay. You can get an idea. Here's another CSU example below 44,000, I believe, up to 3.5 GPA. And you can see it's possible that you'll get a higher university grant because of the GPA. It's possible. And the Cal Grant, notice the Cal Grant's there when you're below 44,000, just up to go with the Pell Grant. Now you can see the amount that you're going to have to come up with if loans or cash is smaller. Now I couldn't do that except with CSU, because CSU's costs way less. The blue bar is way lower. Private college, we talked about already. This is the type of exposure you're going to have, typically, after your merit award. There's a thing called the 1/3 rule. And now this year, the most selective colleges, there's about 30 now that are above $80,000 a year, including USC in town here. And Loyola Marymount, 75,000. That's direct cost. Okay, not total cost, direct cost. Okay, so schools like that, this is pretty much what you're looking at if you got a nice merit award. And like a split almost. Okay. Now, there are exceptions to the cost rules if you have an open mind, or if your student gets a lot of scholarships and merit awards. So remember, I'm putting that off the table. But most students, they can't always get that. These are kinds of schools, UCs, Sonoma State, Boise State. I listed 4 CSUs: Grand Canyon, George Washington, Lehigh, Carnegie Mellon, Nevada, Reno, Seattle Pacific. These schools are pretty much set up to do the same thing they do every year and give a little more money than most, little more. Sometimes a lot more, I should be fair. Sometimes a measurable amount more than other schools. All things being equal. It's all in where you are. Now, some of these, they're not open anymore for applications, of course. How about the 2 categories of, quote, student loans? You might wonder why I put it in quotes. Maybe I'll show you here. There are 2 types of student loans. There's direct student loans, also called Stafford loans, and Perkins loans. Perkins loans are fully forgivable, no problem. You can usually get volunteer work with me or with some other nonprofit or at the school, and you can get Perkins loans. They become grants. But direct student loans, called Stafford loans, must be repaid. The second type of student loan is the parent loan. Yep, the parent loan is a form of student loan. It's called a plus loan. A lot of you are saying, well, I'm not going to do any parent loans. Well, I showed you view graphs a minute ago, which showed that you probably will. So the question is, will it be for what amount it will be, right? Will it be for a CSU or a private school? But I think you're going to have to use parent loans unless you have money saved for college. Especially now with so much inflation and you just can't pull it out of your budget as easy with gas and food and electricity. I just saw my electric bill. I almost fainted, considering I'm in charge of the electric bill here. Yikes. Plus loan is no loan forgiveness. There is a credit check. All right. Perkins loans are totally forgivable. There's no credit check. Direct student loans, forgiveness for federal government employment after 10 years. AmeriCorps, straight up. Peace Corps, straight up. 3 years of Peace Corps, your loans are forgiven. Teach for America, 3 years, you get your loans forgiven. That's been true before all this forgiveness talk. Okay, there are some employers more and more that will offer to pay your loan, so that's interesting phenomenon that I'm seeing. All right, so these are the two categories of loan you'll be dealing with. How about the two types of student direct loans? Subsidized loans. Interest is paid by the feds while the student is in college. Pay all 4 years. Interest does accrue 6 months after the student leaves college. First year loans, 35, second 45, third and fourth 55 for the subsidized loan. Now we have, so the maximum subsidized loan is $19,000 for college. But then we have unsubsidized loans, $2,000 each year for 5 years, plus an additional $4,000 per year that the plus loan is rejected. And unsubsidized means that interest does accrue while your student's in college, but it's a very small amount. I've got to be fair. I think it's 0.8% that accrues while the student's in college, okay? And as you know, I think students should pay for college when I see these two loans. I don't think parents should do every bit of the loans. But you may differ from me. You may think they should have no debt because you had debt and you thought it was a bad thing. And that's fine, but I'm just letting you know what I think. And it doesn't matter. Maximum unsubsidized loans, $22,000, okay? Here's a typical 4-year student we've seen. For 3.5 years of college, this is the loan load that we see. Total of $12,250 plus the $7,000. For 4 years of college, remember the $7,000 is unsubsidized. For 4 years of college, I see $14,000. If they have a 5th year, it goes to $19,000, right? That'd be the maximum. So that's what we see on a 4-year and a 3-year. We see with our students when they finish college. And just to let you know, when it's these totals, they'll pay about, let's see, their maximum payment will be $280 a month. But of course, they get a different payment plan. It's lower, but the interest accrues more, right? The payments are set to finish the loan off in 7 years. I think it could be less actually. Maybe 6 years, 6.5. I included the loan table for student loans to see how much they're going to pay per month in their loans. There's the 287. There it is. They have 20,000 in loans. The total interest is shown. This is the student loan payment chart. Okay, it's 5.55% interest right now. That may have gone up. The parent one I got right. Why do I think students should pay for college? Students should pay or owe something for their college education. They'll receive something of lifelong value. They should pay. They are and become more motivated to complete college as fast as possible when they have some skin in the game. Many times parents regret their own student loans, do not want their youth to have loans. See, I told you I get that. You can pay their loans or pay the additional costs in cash, but it's up to you. The monthly student loan payment is manageable if the students plan a sustainable career independent of their major. Plan a sustainable career. And we're going to do a lot of work with students on that as we move through the spring here. I hope they'll be able to come to those meetings. They're called life confirmation sessions. We're going to talk a lot about having a sustainable career. We're going to have some student panels and things like that of my students who've gone on to have careers to advise them on how to start their careers. And also watch my YouTube channel, parents. We'll be having a lot of interviews of students of mine who have jobs and careers. A life plan is needed to allow loans to be repaid. Here's the parent loan chart. Used to be I cut this chart off at 200,000, but you could be up to 350 if you're paying 4 years of loans or 5 years of loans at 60,000 a year. This is not an unbelievable chart. But the point is your monthly payments, look at those monthly payments, are 8.45% interest now, and 10 years, 120 payments is what you'll be paying. And there is no 10-year forgiveness on a parent loan. Like, on a parent loan, when it's 10 years, you can get forgiveness. And that was already in this. These are things that already were in the system. And when they're talking about, breaking the Supreme Court ruling and doing loan forgivenesses right now, those loans typically are either students with master's degrees or students with undergraduate degrees. It's not the parent loan, even though the original intent was to include parent loans. I know a notable person too in this in this meeting, and maybe is getting forgiveness, I believe. I believe. All right. Like I said, I wanted to keep the meeting pretty short and sweet to take questions. I'll be glad to do that. Let me